Kentucky hard after Caleb Holt right now, five-star guard slash wing. I call him a guard because I think he's a shooting guard, but he's also big enough that I think you could kind of go small, play him at the three. And from the sounds of it, from Kentucky insiders, it appears that Caleb Holt is a recruitment they're putting a lot of resources into potentially as not a backup plan, but an alternative option to Tyron Stokes. These are two huge recruitments that are going to cost a lot of money for you to get either Tyron Stokes or Caleb Holt. And I don't think even Kentucky believes they could get both. So if things are progressing in one direction with Caleb Holt, it might mean something tangentially related about Tyron Stokes. Anyways, there's a whole new article from Jacob Polachek at Polachek KSR who really laid out where this recruitment stands very nicely. And he talked with Caleb Holt's father, Desmond Holt, specifically for this interview. Desmond had great things to say. He said this visit went well. Everything was great. It was a great atmosphere, great food, of course. We were really impressed with Coach Pope and his staff. They have a wealth of knowledge and passion about the game. The pitch in terms of style of play is they like to get up and down. That's appealing to us. They have guys with an NBA pedigree, all those things. All of them are key in the appeal. It's impressive what they did last year in Coach Pope's first year. Speaks to their acumen building a roster on the fly. If Pope gives his guys freedom to play and make decisions, it seems as if he does that. All those things are conducive to his continued growth and development as a player. A lot of praise there. If I was a program like Kentucky, this is like 100 out of 100, exactly what I would want to hear from a kid's father right off of a visit. Sounds like Kentucky has a very real chance to close the deal here. One added note on Caleb Holt. Shortly after this interview, it was announced that Caleb Holt will be taking a visit to Providence. Now, I think it was known that Providence was in the mix for Caleb Holt. However, I believe there might have been a date shift potentially. It's now going to be September 19th, so a week from tomorrow, that Caleb Holt makes it out to Providence. Riley Davis, where do you stand on Caleb Holt?
I love Caleb Holt. I view him as one of the five best players in this class. I know his ceiling might not be as high as your typical top five recruit, but I think he does everything well on the court, has very few weaknesses to his game. He might just not be a superstar. However, I still think there's a chance that he ends up being like a clear cut lottery pick. I think that should be the expectation because he's still, I believe, what, seventh or eighth ranked in the class and could be the type of guy who might even average 14, 15, 16 points in year one. And even in terms of looking at the wing for this Kentucky team next year, I just would feel more comfortable building around him than Tyron Stokes. I think you can point to Otega Owe as like we've had a player of your ilk before who can be that 2-3, who's defensive minded, who's a plus athlete, who flourished under Mark Pope. And with Holt, like to me, that's the type of pitch that would sell. Where it's like I view you as a similar caliber player of this kid who's going to be an All American candidate, but you're doing this as a freshman, and we view you as a one and done who's going to be in the NBA after 8 months in Lexington. Like I think he's just such a dog. There's no other way to put it. Like go back and watch his game against New Heights and Ron Rippey in the semifinals game at the Adidas 3SSB. I mean, you see some of his flaws in it where his handle can be a little loose, but at the same time, it's like you just don't see guards attack the glass like he does, both offensively and defensively. Finish that game with 10 points and still finish with like I think it was 27. Or he had 10 boards. I think he finished with 27 points. Like that to me is the quintessential Caleb Holt game that I would recommend anybody watch if you want to know like why I fell in love with this kid. But yeah, it would feel like a tailor-made fit if he ends up in Lexington, and I just hope he ends up somewhere like there instead of wasting away in Providence for a year.
He does so many winning things. So
Yeah.
many winning things on the basketball court. He's just like the consummate teammate guy, two-end player, offense, defense, everything. I think he's a guy that could give you 30 if you need it. I think he's a guy who's content with giving you 6 points if that's what the game calls for and getting a bunch of stops. And just a guy that I think is going to go somewhere and win, which is why it's so intriguing that Providence has become a team to watch here because not only is he visiting Providence here, Travis Branham from 24/7, who has a bunch of latest recruiting updates out. Most of them conflict with some of the buzz that we've heard with Kentucky's priority targets here. This is what Travis Branham wrote on Caleb Holt here. Holt most recently visited Kentucky, but there are a few schools ahead of the Wildcats right now. Based on recent conversations with sources, Providence has emerged as a surprising and intriguing team to watch. Kim English was in to see Holt on Monday. According to my sources, Providence is a real factor here and could prove to be a real contender as they're in the midst of a strong push for Holt. Now, I would say this: Caleb Holt, consummate winner. Would not expect Providence to be the destination for the winningest player in the class here. Does that square with you at all mentally?
Is it too mean to say Kim English is a consummate loser?
Oh, that is relatively
That
mean.
is
Yeah.
mean. I'm sorry. I don't want Providence fans to come after me. Let me rephrase that. I was trying to be funny, but like Providence just has not done any. They haven't been remotely close to the tournament since he's been there.
Well, I
He
do
under,
think Caleb Holt would change it immediately. He's a kid, he goes in the Big East. I think that team's immediately top four in the Big East.
I mean, we said the same thing about maybe not, but like Garway Dual was
Yeah, so different. So different.
Dual. Okay, I think Dual was a miss eval where a lot of draft folks were like weirdly high on him when he had no offensive game, but he was still like defensive minded guard who theoretically could play on the ball. I just am so like Providence was really fun under Ed Cooley. I thought he got that program to new heights, and year in, year out, they were really well coached and were a threat to pull off some big upsets in the Big East. And obviously, they got to the Sweet 16 the year before he left. But it's just been since then. I mean, I'm just not enthused by what Kim English has done there. They won 12 games last year. I guess they won 21 his first year, but still were like barely top 60 on Kim Palm, weren't really talked about as a tournament team. And even with George Mason, it seems like Tony Skinn has that program under on a better trajectory. Like
Yeah, let me
Mason,
stop you there because I love where you're at, but I am going to say this: we don't need to sleepers finds out investigative journalism whether or not Kim English has actually been a good coach. Like I would have accepted the premise, even though it was a little mean. We get it, but I think like I don't know. I'm shocked that Providence would be the team of choice for a kid like Caleb Holt and how he's wired. What we've heard repeatedly is he likes playing like Team USA events. He likes being surrounded by elite players. He likes the role of being a role player on that stuff. If all of that was true, to me, there's no way he chooses Providence. So I don't mean to dispute Branham's report here. Obviously, Kim English has done a good job just getting Providence into a spot where they have a shot. The more interesting thing, again, is the same exact shit we said on the Stokes video, but I'm going to say it again. How many of Kentucky's top targets are Kentucky people saying we lead for
Mhm.
and national reporters saying, yeah, they're way behind? Like that, this is happening with a bunch of the targets right now. Rippy. Now Stokes is the one they are. It wasn't Stokes, it was Rippy. That's what I meant. They say they lead for Stokes. Everybody's in agreement on that. But like if Rippy and Holt are two that Mark Pope is like, we feel great, we positioned ourselves nicely, and then Branham's like, no, I would have some follow-up questions on how this plays out, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, still navigating new waters for Pope and Co. in their second year. It's like I still see a kid in a Kentucky jersey and the whole aesthetic of it. I'm like, there's no kid in his right mind who's choosing Providence, Rhode Island over this.
Yeah.
You know, like
This
that
is
to me
one,
is.
no matter what Branham reports, I still believe Kentucky has a great shot here.
I'm with you.